Nobody teaches you how to find a job, but today's guest has spent her career changing that. She calls it teaching you how to fish, and the lessons apply at every stage of your career. Welcome to the Marketing Moms Podcast. I'm Kelly Callahan Poe. Today's episode is called Job Search Skills for Life with Kate Crane. Kate is the founder of Direction Over Perfection, a career mentorship practice for college students and early career professionals. Drawing on a journey that took her from a 2008 layoff at a New York art gallery to scaling DoorDash's Drive platform from $9 million to $500 million and a VP role at OpenTable. Welcome, Kate.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Your company is called Direction Over Perfection, which I love. Talk to me about why you named your company that and what that phrase means to you and why you built a business around that.
Yeah, I really passionately believe that early in your career, you just need to get going. You just need momentum and making a good next step, finding something that is going to help you build your career plan, build your career path. It doesn't have to be perfect. You just need to start and get going.
So perfection, no on perfection.
Yeah, no on perfection. We just need direction and momentum.
I love it. So for students or new grads, you talk about teaching young people how to fish rather than handing them a job. Can you tell me a little bit about your philosophy on that?
Yeah, I think core to the way that I coach people is it's a balance of coaching and consulting. So sometimes I'm wearing my coaching hat and helping them find their way, helping them understand or explore what are they good at, what are they interested in, and trying to find some career vectors to explore that are the intersection of those two things. I like to use the word vector instead of a path, because a path implies that it's, if not linear, you're walking something. You're like looking backwards, it's a career path, but looking forward, it's really kind of this larger vector or swath of opportunities. The other consulting hat is teaching you how to fish. I want to help you build a set of skills that will help you get this next job, but it'll also help you get the next 4 jobs. So how to build a resume, which is, in my point of view, more articulating the value that you can bring to a company, articulating the value that you have brought to a company previously, rather than a set of responsibilities that you had. And how to network in a way that doesn't feel icky. It feels natural, asking for advice rather than asking for help. And so those are some of the concepts that we talk through in this teaching to fish concept. So once we've gotten through the consulting bit of teaching you how to fish and very tactically how do we get that job, the final element is landing the job. And we do talk about, we do talk through what an interview looks like, what behavioral questions might be relevant or are likely to come up for whatever vector or industry you're looking through. And there's so many tools now to do really, really powerful interview prep. So now you have the content. Now let's work on the confidence. So feeling confident in how you're going to show up for that interview and how you're going to show up on your first day. One of the things that I really value when I started as a management consultant after business school was I went through this very tactical 3-week course on their expectations on how to be a good consultant. So I've kind of deconstructed that, and I can flex it into later career, earlier career. But what does it mean to be good at your job on day one? What does it mean to be good, and what is expected of you on day one? Because that's different than what's expected of you in month 4. But we can talk about showing up for work, how to dress. I know that sounds so silly and tactical, but you want to pattern match your peers. And so we can talk about what that might look like and then how to kind of read the room. These are things that some people know innately and others might be really, really nervous about. So let's demystify that and make you feel comfortable and confident. And then more tactically, from an actual work point of view, is what does a meeting look like? What does showing up really well at a meeting look like? Taking meeting minutes or taking your own notes, how to contribute in a way that is appropriate to your level, and then how to anticipate somebody's needs, how to manage up to your boss. These are all things that as professionals, they kind of, later in your career, it might feel like, oh, of course, that's just being a good professional. But if you're starting your first kind of real big kid job after college, or you've pivoted into a new industry, that can be really daunting. And so let's just demystify it and help you build confidence.
Well, is there anything that surprises you when you talk to young professionals that are pretty obvious, like bringing a pen and paper to work?
Yeah.
Or, how they take notes and how they listen, or, what are the things that are surprising to you that young people aren't necessarily prepared for?
So I think that there are, simplifying it, there's two archetypes. There's an archetype of somebody who thinks, I'm fine, I got it, I don't need the advice. And great, love that confidence. I hope you actually got it. Because I and many of my friends have been on the other side, where you have somebody with great confidence walk into the work environment and it's like, oh God, I have to teach this person. And so I have peers coming to me saying, love what you're teaching. Please add, don't chew gum in an interview. They're giving me really tactical things to add to my acumen of what I'm teaching. And then the other archetype is that I have people who are coming to me with less confidence and saying, how do I do this? You say just to talk your way into it, or you say just to do this. What does that actually mean? And so, great. Thank you for the question, and we'll break it down. So anyone that has the confidence, I'm so excited that you have the confidence. It's the hardest thing to build, but that doesn't mean you know everything. So it's still worth a conversation.
It's funny, there was a professor that I've worked with over the years at my alma mater, and he's always asked me to teach some basic classes in terms of entry-level tips. But he said the biggest challenge that he has with young students in college who are taking classes over the summer is they don't understand basic professionalism.
Yeah.
And that's professionalism starting in an internship. For example, don't wear a baseball cap. Don't wear sandals or tennis shoes to work.
So for you and me, I'm going to guess that we both started in a business casual environment, and then we kind of gradiated towards the jeans and elevated top environment, and then maybe further to the jeans and a t-shirt environment. That's definitely my experience, management consultant. Gosh, and in an art gallery, how you showed up to work was very important. It wasn't had to be fancy, but you had to hit a minimum barrier of hip. One of the things when I was a consultant was we were literally taught to pattern match. So yes, I showed up to the first day on client in not a suit. I was told not a suit, but I was in a nice business, more casual business casual outfit of a skirt and a top. But I was working with an oil and gas startup. And so the male peers that I was working with were in steel toe boots, jeans or khakis, and a polo or a button down. And while I was never going to wear that, I pattern matched my version of something more casual. When I went to DoorDash, there were no baseball caps, but our CEO and COO were in jeans and a button down. And then maybe the directors were in, actually I had a boss who wore the same 5 t-shirts every day, every week. It was a day of the week t-shirt situation. And then the entire company, this is gonna date myself, this is 2017, the entire company wore Allbird tennis shoes because they were the hip sneaker in San Francisco at the time. I think we've evolved past Allbirds, but the concept, you pattern match. I use that same concept of, I stopped wearing silk shirts to work because that was too elevated for that pattern matching environment. But that's a thing I was taught, and I don't think we teach that now. Especially if you haven't gone through a true training program like I had gone through. So now I'm, advice, teach, that's the guidance I'm giving.
I will date myself tremendously more. When I went to my first job, pantyhose were in.
Yeah.
Women were told to wear pantyhose. Luckily, we have evolved since then, but that's back when people used to smoke in their offices. So a lot has changed, thank goodness.
And thank God for Spanx.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other thing, just thinking about it, is little things like your phone. I
Yeah.
didn't have phones back when we started our jobs. In fact, we barely had the internet, so that's a completely different story. But are you leaving your phone on the desk when you're in a meeting? Those sort of things, I think need
I
to be
think that
taught. And
I
where
think
you
that's
take notes.
cultural. I think it depends on the company. Because there are some companies that are laptop up, laptop
Yeah.
closed environments for meetings. And so if you're a laptop closed, maybe your phone face up is appropriate to keep eyes out for like an important Slack. I think it's entirely cultural. So there's meeting protocols around, are you in the room? Are you, how tight is the agenda versus the brainstorm? There's all different situations. But I will say for the phone and the work environment, I coach it as, how do you manage your idle time? So particularly if you're early, you're probably a taskmaster. You're being given a set of things to do. You're not autonomous yet, that you're like looking for the next project. I mean, that's definitely what you should be doing. But like a great early career person, I like to say is, you do the set of tasks ahead of you, and then you come back to your boss and say, hey, all these things are done. What do I do next? Or like, please review my things, and then what do I do next? Well, the reality is that your boss doesn't have time to do that. And there's going to be a gap between when you finish the thing and they can review the thing. And there's probably going to be a gap between finishing the thing and then having the next thing ready for you to do. So what do you do with that idle time? A, don't look at your phone. Like, don't get on social media unless you're an actual social media person. And there are productive things that you could be doing, especially if you're in like an in-office environment. If somebody walks by and you're looking at ESPN, like, no. And I actually have an actual memory of this happening for someone I managed in like 2012. But don't have that up. But if you have the New York Times up, if you have like Crunchbase up or tech, like, have something that is relevant to your industry and show that you are learning, researching. Maybe you're learning a new skill. Maybe you're working on a model, like a financial model, whatever it is. Let your idle time be productive
Yeah.
in a way that helps you grow, both that you're growing, and if somebody walks by, their perception of you is positive and not negative.
In advertising and marketing, we focus on the customer. So learn everything that you possibly can about the customer. And there's so many different ways to do that. But not only that, the industry. Are you up to date? Are you getting Google alerts? Are you have the latest news of what's coming across the wires in terms of news that might impact your industry? So there's so many things that you can do with that idle time, and then starting to take that information and letting your boss know, hey, this has just happened. How does this impact what we're doing, et cetera, et cetera. Well, let's shift over to AI in terms of the job search. And how does someone actually stand out now in terms of AI? And obviously we know it's really impossible to get your resume across with AI screeners that screen your resume. So where does AI help you in a job search versus where does it hurt you?
I have mixed feelings on using AI to adjust your resume for every job description, because I think that was the guidance like a year ago, 2 years ago. Use, like, scrape the job description, scrape your resume, ask AI to make it fit. And what that was trying to do was make sure that you had the right keywords in your resume, so that when the applicant tracking system uses AI to screen your resume, that you're like getting through the screen. So let me start with the applicant tracking system. The ATS, in my opinion, and job boards like LinkedIn and Indeed are working in the best interest of the employer. They aren't working in the best interest of the applicant. There's simply too many applications coming through for each role for a human to read each one. So appropriately, they're using AI to filter. A great recruiter is going to have multiple filter sets, so they can build filters for multiple archetypes for what they're looking for in that role. And wonderful, hopefully you'll fit one of those archetypes. A less good recruiter is going to have one filter, and very possibly it's going to get one archetype. And if you're a really kind of rich background individual, it's not going to understand that richness. It's just going to look for the keywords. And so if you have gotten rejected within minutes or within 24 hours of applying to something, you weren't rejected by a human, you were rejected by the system. And so I guide people to not be disheartened by that. The way to mitigate the applicant tracking system working is to network your way into the role as well.
Yeah.
So before we go into the networking bit, which is, a big part of that, like informational interviews, networking part of what I coach or consult, I do think that there is a better way now that I'm discovering to use AI to tweak your resume. So I will scrape a job description, and I'll give it I have 4 versions of my own resume. You don't have to have 4 versions. You can have a master version. But take the job description and take whatever version of the resume you like, or multiple versions, or the master that has everything, and say, grade my resume against this job description. And it will gap assess what you're missing. And then you can say, okay, help me fix that. Or interview me, because maybe those are real gaps. Maybe those aren't real gaps, and it's just not written in the resume yet. Then you can try to find, how do I optimize my resume for this job description? I think that's a better way to do it now. AI is still your friend, it's still a tool, but if you're going to ask it to rewrite your resume, make sure it has clear guidelines, maintaining level of detail, using a star format, situation, task, action, result. Don't lose the level of detail. Don't oversimplify my work. Whatever you want out of your resume, make sure you're telling the tool. And then when the tool gives you back a resume, proofread it. Yeah. And if it's exact, tell it not to exaggerate. Don't make things up. I know that might sound silly, but don't assume that it's going to do it correctly. It's still your resume. It's still you. It's still yours. You are ultimately accountable for what you're submitting.
One of the things that you talk about is the distinction between academic education and professional education. And you talk about how the professional component should really start your sophomore year, not after your diploma. Can you talk a little bit about that and tell us what 19, 20-year-olds should be doing right now that no one is telling them to do?
Yeah. So from my personal professional experience, I find it very difficult to hire somebody straight out of undergrad because of those professional skills. It's not because they don't know how to do the work. It's not that they don't know, they aren't smart and they have the right education to come do the work. It's because they've never worked before and I have to teach them how to take notes in a meeting, right? So the way to mitigate that is to start building your professional education through work experience in college. And I think that work experience does not have to mean you have an office job in college or you have a full-time job in college. It can mean lots of things. And that's why I like this concept of the parallel professional education and academic education. It can be working in a retail shop. It can be nannying. It can be working in a restaurant, because your responsibilities are sales, inventory, taking care of children, taking care of a house, and serving. But the value you're creating is serving others, understanding client needs, doing inventory management. You can translate those into real valuable value adds that a hiring manager is looking for. And furthermore, internships in an actual office environment that you're looking for in a full-time capacity through a summer, that's also a great way to actually test out, do you really want to do this thing you want? Or maybe you thought you wanted to do this and you don't. And it's a great thing to learn what you don't like as well as what you do like. But you kind of have to start early so you don't have just one job experience or work experience before graduation, because what if that one thing you tried you didn't like? Hopefully you have kind of 2 or 3 at-bats through summer internships, part-time work experience during college.
Great advice. Now talk to me about the idea of separating the work from the person.
Yeah, that is core to my personal kind of people management philosophy. So, and it comes from consulting. When I was a management consultant, I managed a project team. And so I had people on my projects that we were kind of managing the work. And then separately, I was a people manager. And that could be people on my project or people working somewhere else within the organization. And so physically, I separated managing the work and managing the person. When I moved into tech, that was one and the same, right? I was managing a team. And so I was both managing our output as a team, their individual output as a person. I was also managing them through their promotion cycles and through year-end performance management. But I kept that separation so that we could separate how you did on that work product from how do I keep you motivated and where do you want to go in your career. This is also why I focus my practice on young people. So when I joined DoorDash, I was 31 and I was old lady. It was just a really young company and a lot of young people who had not managed people before. And you know, that's kind of an aside, but I had a lot of people that I was managing that were between the ages of 24 and 29, 30. And so they were grappling with, I like being here, I like being at this cool tech startup, the work is hard and fun, but they didn't know what they wanted to do next. And so one of the things I would ask them, particularly for where we were in the company, was, do you want to be a chief product officer, a chief operating officer, or a chief revenue officer? And answering that question, or kind of as they struggled to answer that question, and we kind of teased out what they thought about those three things, might guide us into different vectors. Or to say, okay, we're in strategy and operations, so we really do touch all three of those things. Maybe we want to get a stretch project for you in the sales org, or a stretch project for you that goes more towards like customer requirements for a new product, and help them explore, you know, what do they want to do next, whether that's on my team or a different team or a different company. But I think it's really, I don't know, it's just how I think about managing people.
Well, that's related to this idea that you have about creating a marketing plan for yourself.
Yes. I love these questions and how they're kind of like jumping around my career, you know, chronologically, but they are so interrelated. Creating a marketing plan, back to like the recruiting concept, is one of the best pieces of advice that a friend gave me on how to, conduct my own job search. The concept of have clarity on what you want. So you're not just like searching for strategy roles or chief of staff roles or sales roles. You're thinking about what do I want and where do I want to go? And so there's like three or four concepts within this marketing plan. And they should be prioritized based on what your priority is. So what position or titles are you looking for? Is it a level? Is it a title, etc.? What kind of company do you want to work for? Do you want to work for a public company, a big company, a small company? What industry do you want to work in? And then are there any specific companies that you want to work for? Yeah. So some of those things are overlapping, right? But for me personally, the last time that I went through a recruiting process, the title was ultimate to me. I wanted VP or above, and I wanted go-to-market or operations. After that, I think I wanted to be in food tech or in a marketplace because that's where I have value, CPG. So I was kind of a little looser in there. Actually, I'll say that was my third priority. My second priority was company size and stage, Series B to Series E. I wanted it to, I knew that I had a sweet spot in terms of where I added the most value. And then company was totally agnostic because I know that I don't know who the new companies are in those stages. Yeah. So that was my search. I've had other people that say, I really want to work at Nestle. That's my game. I live in DC. I want to go work at Nestle because I want to be in CPG, but I really want to go work at Nestle. Beyond that, I think I want to be in marketing. So I'm actually completely agnostic to where I am in marketing or strategy, but like I want to be at Nestle. And so those four concepts are the concepts, and then ranking them is have clarity on what you want. You can also have 3 or 4 different plans, but like have a point of view and don't have too many, right? Like simplify them as you can. The next reason why you have that is that when you start to do your like networking plan, in addition to your applying for jobs through the ATS or through these job boards, then tactically speaking, you're saying, hey friend, I'm looking for a job. I've built a marketing plan for myself. I'd love your advice on how I'm taking myself to market.
Love it.
And then you're asking for advice, not for help.
Yeah.
But 9 times out of 10, when I asked friends for advice on my marketing plan, they were not just saying you should talk to so and so, but give me 30 minutes, I'm going to connect you with them. And that is just, for me, that's the answers to the test.
Any final advice for those handling their job search at any stage of their career?
Confidence. You're capable, you're smart. I think one of the hardest parts is getting down your value, the value that you have added and you can add on paper, and then being able to articulate that to somebody in person. So find a friend, find a partner to help you kind of talk through it, get it on paper. It can be an AI partner, it can be an in-person partner. But I hope you can see the value that you already have in yourself. You can get it on paper and be comfortable telling people how wonderful you are.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing your insights today, Kate. We're going to provide links to your website, your podcast, your contact information in the transcript. Don't forget to subscribe and share. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.